Hello, and welcome to another episode of This All Stops When We Start Talking About It. I want to make you all aware that as of today, January 12th, I've still had no contact from a federal investigator since I started this initiative on January 1st of 2025. I also want to point out to those of you that may have open criminal matters in Dolores County, there is something that you should be aware of. There is a list that's compiled federally and statewide called the Brady Giglio Officer Integrity List. And just so you're aware, a Brady list is a list of officers that's compiled usually by a prosecutor's office or a police department. And it contains the names and personal details of law enforcement officials who've sustained incidents of untruthfulness, criminal convictions, candor issues, or any other issue that's placing their credibility into question. Now, I don't know if you have realized the magnitude of what I've included in these documents, but I have detailed numerous obstruction of justice issues, numerous perversion of justice issues, numerous instances of false statements being filed under oath with the court, forgery, and various other crimes. So if Don Wilson, Braden Banks, Coty Kelshaw, Matt Percat happen to be the arresting or charging officer in any of your criminal matters, I would strongly, strongly urge you to provide these videos to your public defender or your private attorney, because you may be able to get out of your charge if your officer that arrested you does not have a reputation for truthfulness. And I would say, based upon these videos, everyone should question the truthfulness of the officers I mentioned. I'd like to thank those of you who are watching again. I really, really appreciate you. I'm asking you to please keep sharing. Please, this is the only way I'm going to get attention. I have to be louder than them. I'm one woman against all of these people. And I've tried really diligently for about 18 months to do it on my own, but I've reached the point where I can't. I've tried everything. If you think I didn't contact the FBI about this before, I did. I contacted the FBI about this back in December of 2023. They gave me the runaround for a while. And then finally, it was the same weekend that the Aztec Speedway thing happened. I can't remember the date. It was either the last weekend in April or the first weekend in May. But I finally got a call back from the FBI who didn't look at any of my evidence and who had talked to the government actors before I got a chance to talk to her. She gave me another story. I can't remember what her story was, but they told me this happened. And I said to her, this is ridiculous. First of all, the sheriff cannot set his own bond. Please take a look at the document. You'll see that there's a PR bond issued on the one I sent to you. Secondly, if in fact their new story is true, why wouldn't they just tell me that back in November of last year? Why wouldn't they just show me that I'm wrong? If I'm wrong, and I'll go away. Yeah, all I keep getting are stories. And again, in the court record, all I see is a filing at 150 when I know that the wife was taken into custody at 10:10 and booked into the Montezuma County Jail at 10:59 a.m. And again, I do not believe her public defender has been notified of that information. And as much as I would like to just send it to him directly, I believe I've been discredited with him by these guys. So maybe he'll see this. Maybe Justin Bogan will see this, and maybe he'll start looking into Dolores County cases. But all I would say is this: attorneys who do defense work, I would definitely be checking the arrest times versus the time of the warrant signature, especially if you have a case in Dolores County, because I don't believe that this is the only case that occurred in. I had told you that my client and I tried to contact the Victims' Rights Board for the state of Colorado. We provided them a thorough complaint. And in fact, I'm going to read my client's complaint to you. We started out his VRA letter with a disclaimer. It said there are a number of facts, dates, references that make this case seem almost nearly impossible. However, the statements set forth are true and can be proven through documentation. My attorney and I have been disparaged by the authorities in our district for requesting assistance multiple times over these issues when we've had the proof in our hands the entire time. I'm concerned that these issues are occurring to more people than just me. I am blessed to be able to pay for an attorney to handle these matters, but I believe the 22nd Judicial District, and specifically Dolores County Court, are in a state of crisis because of criminal and procedural mishandling of VRA cases like mine. I am not receiving equal protection under the law, and I know there are others like me who are afraid to come forward as they will be subject to retaliation, as I described below. We need assistance to stop this from the state. As I'm concerned, someone is going to end up seriously hurt or dead because of the negligence by local law enforcement and willful ignorance by the 22nd Judicial District Attorney's Office, currently headed up by appointee Christian Hatfield. So I know probably some of you are wondering, like, why didn't you just go to the county commissioners? Well, I tried. They're represented by an attorney. That'd be Dennis Goldbright. And Dennis and I were in frequent email communication. Dennis was not much help. He was just about as helpful as Don was. And I notified Dennis in December of 2023 about serious violations of the law. I wrote him a letter on December 18th saying, "Thank you, Dennis. I think the county should be made aware that every officer, including Don, is out of compliance with post requirements. Were the state to investigate under my reading of the law, the entire force would be decertified, leaving the county without any law enforcement. I am certain you understand the logistical nightmare that this would cause. I realize the sheriff is not going to report himself or his staff, which is what the current iteration of the law requires. However, I am asking for the safety of my clients and all citizens that are overseen by the DCS so that you review the post standards yourself and notify the county commissioners of what is happening. I have no choice but to appoint this issue to the Attorney General, as I have 3 different clients who were negatively impacted by this failure of a government agency to follow the law and protect their citizens. I know my clients would be most interested in being heard on how the DCSO violated their rights. I understand Don is an elected official, but he and his staff are funded by the county. And as your commissioners have a fiduciary duty to the citizens to not waste their money, I'm certain they would be interested in knowing how the DCSO is using or misusing those funds. They will not discuss this with the DCSO, but would welcome discussing it with the commissioners. If the commissioners are interested, I can put my clients in touch with you or the commissioners. I'm willing to tell them what I know, but I'm confident my clients can speak for themselves." That was my way to avoid a lawsuit being filed against Dolores County. Like, hey, let's do it in the Dove Creek way. Let's sit down and talk about it at a round table, and let's see if we can get somewhere. Instead, at the very first county commissioners meeting in 2024, Dennis Goldbright advised them to go into executive session to discuss potential litigation, which I'm certain was about me. So suddenly, the commissioners, who I've never met or spoken with, any of them, suddenly were telling people they were upset with me. I don't know why. I don't know how you could be upset with someone you've never spoke to. Regardless, we never got any help from the county commissioners. And in case you're wondering if they're aware of all of this, they are, because in May of 2024, I sent them a notice of intent to sue on behalf of my client, listing out everything that the Dolores County Sheriff's Office had done, listing out all the information Dennis Goldbright was aware of, and they've done absolutely nothing. So if there's any civil rights attorney watching these who would like an easy payday from the Dolores County Sheriff's on behalf of my client, please contact me, because I've already done the first part of the work for you. I can't be his lawyer because I don't have licensure in federal court to sue them in at the federal level, and they've effectively conflicted me off making me a witness. But I have every single piece of evidence you need, and I've already filed the notice of intent to sue. That was in May of 2024. I served all those documents by mail. Sheriff didn't pick his up. He let them sit there in the mailbox, P.O. box. It was cute. At which point I finally wrote Dennis Goldbright and said, "Hey, it's really cute how Don's going to pretend like he doesn't have certified mail in his mailbox. But if he's not going to pick it up, who should I serve it upon?" And wouldn't you know, Don Wilson went and picked that mail up within about 5 minutes of me sending that email. He's a garbage person. He's a really bad sheriff, and he should not be the sheriff of your county. Now, if you remember, we had filed for civil contempt for violations of the protection order in front of Judge William first, where my client was asking for his wife to be held in punitive contempt and sentenced to some jail time for the violations. And that was to account for the fact that the sheriff's office was absolutely failing my client and refusing to enforce the protection order or follow the law. And so we had a hearing date set on May 17th, which was 3 days after her hearing on May 14th. And over a weekend, if I remember correctly. And so on May 14th, she took a plea deal, I believe, pleading to 2 of the 4 open charges, being offered essentially a supervised probation At the time they initially put the plea in, they were not going to recommend a DEV eval, even though the law requires them to do so. And I believe Judge McLaren, the new judge, had fixed that and said, no, if I'm going to accept this, she's going to have to do the domestic violence evaluation. And so that was great. Now, the wife had told her public defender that she was going to be moving out of the state. And so they delayed her sentencing, I believe, until August. And my client said, this is ridiculous. She harassed me by telephone. Even if she moves out of the state, she's still going to do things to me. But they essentially ignored him. And just so we can track the criminal case versus the civil case, I'm just going to finish what happened with the criminal case. I'm sorry, I'm going out of order. It's really impossible to go chronologically because there were so many different cases and so many different things happening that it was really difficult for me to keep track. Not only in this case, but in all of the other cases that they were doing this to me in. So, just going forward in the criminal matter, I wasn't a part of that case because I don't do criminal law. But what I recall is that they didn't sentence her in August because, again, she said she was going to move out of the state, and they kept ignoring my client. My client sent numerous emails to the district attorney's office, to the victim's witness person, Rebecca Garner. I don't know what Rebecca knew, but what I do know is eventually, after I had not spoken to the DA's office since January of 2024, when they asked me to bring the piece of evidence in that they claimed that they had, that they didn't have, I had to reach back out to Clarissa in November of 2024 and say, why are you not responding to my client's emails? He's been emailing you guys for months. You're not holding his victims' rights. He's trying to tell you something. And what he was trying to tell them was that his wife had lied to the court and to the district attorney's office. She never left town. She continued to harass him. He got a girlfriend. She started harassing his girlfriend, trying to send his girlfriend messages, trying to have other people send her messages, and continuing to mess with him. A couple of times the grandkids tried to call him. He didn't answer the phone. That was a really hard thing for him because he had really raised those grandkids. He loved those grandkids, but because of the fact that they had aligned with the person who was trying to destroy him, he had to cut them out of his life. And I know that he had some grief over that. And I understand why. I mean, when you have children that you raise and you pay for and you take care of, and suddenly they turn on you and they're ripped away from you, that's a hard thing. I'm sure some of you people out there in Montezuma County and Dolores County understand what I mean by that. Not grandparents, but parents who've had your children taken away wrongfully. Anyways, what I do know is that eventually in November of 2024, when her first case was filed in April of 2023, she finally was sentenced. She was sentenced to a term, I believe, of 18 months of probation, required to do a domestic violence evaluation, a mental health evaluation. And from what I'm aware of, she was told by Judge McLaren that this was basically her last chance and that if she did anything else, she was going to be serving some jail time. So essentially, even though she should have been sentenced to jail time, even though she should have been sentenced on multiple violations, she was essentially treated as if it was a first-time offender, and 4 cases were disposed of. And that's what I know at this point in time on that criminal matter. I don't believe justice was served at all. And we did mention that I'd mentioned in the last video, we attempted to contact the Victims' Rights Board. I have concerns about the efficacy of the Victims' Rights Board as well, because I can read the law and I know that the law says under Title 24 that they are not allowed to pick and choose whether they file this as a DV case or not. However, the Victims' Rights Board denied my client's complaint, claiming that the DA could do that. And well, I don't agree with that because, like I said, that reading of Title 24 says very clearly they must file it as a domestic violence case unless they can't prove that they were intimate partners and they were married. So, anyways, that's the criminal matter, and that's what happened there. Now, jumping back to the contempt citation, like I had mentioned to you, we filed that to be, or we set that hearing to be after her criminal plea date because Judge First had told us in January that if she was not convicted on certain elements or certain incidents that we had listed in our civil protection order that he made us remove, he would allow us to re-add them to the case. So as soon as she was given her plea, I contacted her appointed attorney and let him know about that those incidents were going to be added back. And since that hearing happened over a Friday, I filed the motion on Sunday. The court was closed for our hearing on Monday. Now, Judge First has long made a history of letting people know that he's okay with remote appearance. And I don't recall specifically if I'd asked or not to appear remotely for that hearing. However, Judge First knew it was approximately a 1 hour hearing, and he also knew I had moved to Kansas. I had been telling him I was moving away, and he kept trying to keep me there, which made me concerned. I didn't understand why there felt like there was this concerted effort to keep me in the state when I was making it very clear I did not feel safe there and I was trying to leave. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I will tell you, I did have my suspicions that there was an effort to keep me there, and that made me very concerned. So in that hearing, I had filed the motion, and at the very beginning of the hearing, I told the judge, "Hey, judge, you let us know. You already authorized this. You gave us permission to add these." Judge First took a recess and went back into his chambers to do legal research to argue against me on behalf of the wife. He didn't, the attorney didn't say any of the things that Judge First used as the basis to refuse to allow us to go forward. He started yelling at me, and he also started attacking me because of the fact that I wasn't physically in the courtroom, even though he had previously authorized me to appear by Zoom. And at that point in time, I got fed up. And I made a very clear record in that hearing. And I said, Your Honor, I don't know why you're treating me this way. I have done nothing wrong. I have followed the court orders. They have not. I have done everything I'm supposed to do. You gave me permission to do this. Now you're upset with me because I'm not physically in the courtroom. I believe you granted me permission, but I'll tell you what. If I did something wrong, you put it in writing, because he had not been putting our orders in writing. He'd just been making oral orders. So I couldn't back things up without paying at least $40 for a CD or hundreds of dollars for a transcript. And I said, you put it in writing, and guess what? We'll take it up with the Supreme Appellate Court. And you know what? If you want to have me, if I've done something wrong, tell me what I did wrong. I'll turn myself into the Montezuma County Jail, and we'll let a judge handle it. Judge First dismissed my client's contempt citation with prejudice and ended the hearing, and then issued a written order. And here's some selections from that order. I did try to contact the FBI again. I had another case where something from May, a completely different case, had gotten reopened. And I again got basically a threat, I believe, from Judge First that I was going to be held in contempt if I didn't fix a document. Apparently, I left a case number off of it or something like that. They waited until until November to tell me that the document in May was deficient, I believe, if I remember correctly. And I felt like they were trying to draw me back there again. And I contacted the FBI. I told them I didn't feel safe. I thought there was a conspiracy, not just with this case, but the other case I'm going to be talking about, involving the judge, the sheriff's office, and the district attorney's office. And as a result of that, I finally did get a phone call from the FBI, only after another individual who's trying to assist me, who had contacts to the FBI, tried to help me get through to them. I talked to that woman, I believe, on November 8th of 2024. I talked to her for about 48 minutes. As of today, January 12th, she has not asked to see a single piece of the evidence I have. So I guess I'll ask you guys. Do you guys think this is criminal? I do. I think it needs to be investigated. And I don't know why I had to be the person to investigate it because I'm a private attorney. All I was ever do was trying to make sure that things were done right by people in the county. And again, what's the most disturbing thing to me is this. My client had money to pay for me to do this. Like I said, his bill was over $10,000 after his divorce was over because of everything the sheriff's and the district attorney's office was doing to him. And then eventually the judge was doing to him. He did not get justice. Now, there was a weird little thing where the DA was trying to make it seem like they were going to make it right. And they asked my client to have me submit my attorney's fees bill so they could submit it as restitution in the criminal case, which is ridiculous. You can't ask for restitution for attorney's fees for a different case. That being said, we entertained it. We provided them the documents. And I said to my client, hey, that's your apology. That's all you're going to get from them. This case was a travesty. This man didn't deserve what happened to him. And quite frankly, I believe as a result of these videos, even though he knows I'm putting them out, he'll probably be targeted again by the Dolores County Sheriff's Office. And I've told him to film everything. I've told him to sound the whistle. And the DA's office, Steve Brunk specifically, has let my client know, oh, if you ever need help, don't call them. Call us instead. But do I think the district attorney's office is going to help him? Not a chance in hell. Because there's still some connections to that woman working in the district attorney's office right now. And well, I'm very afraid my client and I are going to get charges because of this under Jeremy Reed. I hope not. I haven't done anything wrong, but speak. I want to finish this video up with a little bit of where are they now? I don't know if you realized this, but starting about October of 2024, there was a mass exodus from the Dolores County Sheriff's Office. Don Wilson's still there. Braden Banks and Coty Kelshaw are still there. However, Fred Buffington has left to go to the Colorado State Patrol. Matt Percat has left to go to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. Phyllis Davis and Eric Stiasny have both been elected as your county commissioners, and Jerry Baxter was unceremoniously fired by Don Wilson for when he was having a medical issue. So I believe out of 8 employees, I believe they're down to 3 now, if I remember correctly, which seems interesting to me. I'd be really thinking seriously, long and hard before I took a job at the Dolores County Sheriff's Office because I believe that office is going to be under investigation because I believe in what I'm doing and I don't have any regrets. The only regret I have is that all of these people didn't follow the law to make me have to do this. If I was you and you live in Dolores County, I'd be demanding your county commissioners address this and make sure your machine is running correctly because I could be lying about all this, but I have the documentation and eventually I'm going to get through to somebody who's going to be able to prove it. And I would imagine between this client and the other clients I know, the other people I know that have lawsuits against Dolores County, you guys are going to have some serious financial issues in the next couple of years. That's been This All Stops When We Start Talking About It. Stay tuned for the next case starting on Wednesday. Thanks.